Well, John, another week back. How are you, John?
I'm good, John. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. How was your week?
Grand, John. Not so bad.
No, John, very important
Yeah.
topic today now, and fair play to you for getting information on it. It's
Well-
something that, as a man, we really don't think of at times. I suppose it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what background you're from. It's we're supposed to be tough. We're supposed to be this, that, and the
Yeah.
other, and things are. We're not really, you know.
I suppose we're running a suicide kind of awareness training soon here, which is going to be run for the community. But specifically, I watched a program, I suppose, the other day called Martin, and it was about a 12-year-old boy. He's in the traveller community who killed himself.
Oh, geez,
And he did because he was being bullied for being a traveller. And on the Snapchat there was stuff like "you dirty knacker," you never wash, "you dirty traveller," all it. And they were a settled traveller family in Finglas.
Yeah.
And the mother is still like, and the father, to be fair, they'll never be the same.
Devastated.
A 12-year-old child.
Yeah.
So they have, I suppose, really, why we're talking about the traveller side of it is there's 40,000 what we call like who identify as travellers in the world, or in Ireland, and of the national suicide rate, it's 10% of our suicides are travellers. So if you think about that, that's not the same match to the rest. That's not the same ratio to
the rest of
that's because
settled people.
They were kind of talking about. There was a guy in the program, and he was I suppose in his 30s, and he had been very close to doing it, and his depression. They don't. I suppose they're such a close-knit community. Sometimes it wouldn't be, the way we were saying, men. It's only now like we're looking after our health, and I do, and I know you do. But 10, 15 years ago, and men were
wasn't known.
And any of those issues were pushed deep down, and you don't talk about them and all that.
Passed on from father to father to father, from father to son.
We're changing, but the travellers, some of that kind of close-knit group aren't really still kind of making those connections. And that the guy, the older guy there, besides they were talking to the parents and they do the darkness into light thing and all that, and it was heartbreaking because that mother was barely holding it together. He was saying like there's a variety of reasons, and I suppose like it wouldn't be the done thing to be gay. In the community, it's not, man must be a man and all this. And the other thing would be stuff like he mentioned this now, and I'm just quoting, that there's violence intertwined with some of the the bare knuckled fighting and all that kind of stuff, and that's not really healthy psychologically. You're not to bury, if you are who you are. If you're gay, and you should live your life, and you should be accepted. And if you're in a community that for you to be gay would mean leaving a community, which you also have, want that to be part of your life, and I suppose other stuff like undiagnosed, depression and not following, advice and not getting therapy and all that kind of stuff. And it just struck me that they have it's tougher, and what can be done to change that. And there was some conversations with outreach workers who were travellers themselves, and they talked about the stuff, and we brought it up before, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and these are all the different things we need to be happy in, like security and nourishment and all that, and mental health to be part of that as well. And it just struck me that, and I suppose I have a couple of things as well. There was a study done, and they said it was actually a prejudice toward travellers actually fueled a lot of this. And so pervasive racism and consistent discrimination is the primary root cause of suicide in the traveller community. So, and we're all guilty of it. They said they're the worst treated ethnic minority belonging to a country in all of Europe. Because, and
it's frightening.
Yeah.
That is frightening.
And we've all probably thought, oh God, look who's at our door.
And
there is this kind of idea, this notion.
Yeah, it is. I think it's like everything else. People are painted with the one brush. Do you know what I mean? Every nationality, everyone has a certain amount of people that everyone can't be good all the time.
No.
But then you're painted with the brush.
Yeah.
And automatically we do judge people.
It happens black people in America where, they move into an area that's predominantly white, and suddenly it's like, and, I'll be honest, there was, I remember somebody thought I was from a certain part of Limerick when I moved out to countryside, and that was said around like it's a bad thing. I wasn't from that, and I didn't correct them, because I'm from working class area in Limerick, but I'm not from that part, which would have been an area of Limerick that was consistent with people's misconception of Limerick over the years. You know, the Stab City,
on the national press,
and I won't mention it, but you know, there is that, and that's the prejudices we need to get over. So I suppose this study, the review was commissioned by the Ballyfermot Traveller Action Group. It's Intala Travellers, and it's Clondalkin Travellers Development Group. So they found discrimination and racism are part of their daily experiences in a traveller's life, and that directly impacts mental health. So the findings were responses from 112 members of the traveller community. So it was quite a wide survey.
Yeah.
So traveller men are 6 times more likely to die by suicide, and 7 times likely to die by suicide, and traveller women are 6 times more likely than the rest of the population. So you have to ask yourself why.
It's frightening. Why? Yeah. Why?
It is frightening. So over 2/3 of the respondents said they had lost a family member, friend or loved one to suicide. Now, I know in all our, you know, people that we've come across over the years, we all probably know someone, but you know, I've had loved ones. It's a definite, you know, it's when people see there's no hope, you know. So but they more so than any other group. Yeah. So they identified that this kind of I suppose depression and stuff can drive addiction, and it can have an effect that's very far-reaching into their lives. So I suppose, you know, you hear the hotels the minute they find out a traveller wedding.
Oh yeah, straight away.
They're taken to court, or sometimes they're not. So they need to know how many travellers are going through mental health services and identify what supports they need. So what they saw from it is systematic racism and hatred toward the traveller groups. The dirty knacker thing, you know, the tinker. They weren't nice terms. They were used when I was a child. Sure, you're like a tinker. What did that mean? Like, because the tinker's the bin tin at the side of the road. That was what we thought of. That's what. Even the word, we used to use the word itinerant. Do you remember itinerant?
Yeah.
That's not a good word, and they stopped using that.
Years ago, we always thought that was the proper word.
Yeah, it's not. No.
To use, and it's not.
No, it's
not.
No. Pavy was another one.
That's right.
In England, you probably know you know, you were in England when you were younger. The pikey.
Poikies.
Yeah. And that was used to cover all Irish, but that was primarily a traveller one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was
a pikey.
Yeah, you'd pikey and you'd Mick.
Yeah.
Or Paddy. Paddy was a big.
The pikey was the traveller, wasn't it?
Pikey was a traveller. Yeah. That was good, but that was for all kind of. Said English-based. Gypsy as well was called a pikey as well.
Yeah.
Even though they could be from Central Europe or something. The Romanies then were the other people from Eastern Europe and things like that, you know. But they were all classed as the same thing.
Yeah.
You know that you know, you were always, people were told always to be wary of them and things like that, you know, be wary of them, and you're probably not giving people a chance. You're not giving people a chance. You know?
And if you think about it, isn't Tyson Fury got traveller and Shane Ward, and there was a footballer, I forget his name now. He was actually one of South End United's top scorers. I think he got a move to a bigger club, but it didn't quite work out. But I remember on his day off, he dried the Sulkies over.
That's right.
I forget his name now. But
and there was also a rugby player for Wales.
Yeah.
I can't recollect his name now, but actually an English player got banned.
Yeah.
For calling him names, because the man was a travelling man.
We don't use the N-word. Why should we use the?
You know.
So I suppose, what there are numerous quotes in this specific research that people are fearful of sending the children to school for fear to experience racism during the day. And that lad, Martin was his name, and they lived in Finglas, and they lived in a house, and they had the horses and the thing. But they were a lovely, lovely family, and. You know, and the kids were all, and they were destroyed by it, but he was just, you know, he was like ostracised at school because he was a traveller. And just one of the messages to show that we hope you die and all this kind of thing. He was really, like, it's a 12-year-old child.
12-year-olds?
You know, he's not even
was the 12-year-olds
prepubescent. It was kids, his peers, yeah.
Ages,
So, and you know what struck me is the mother, a lovely lady, she said she's no hatred in her heart for him. This was before they'd done the darkness into light thing. Yeah. And she said, what I hope is they learn from it, sorry from it, and they don't, and they stop other kids from doing it if they see it. Yeah. And I mean, for her to be able to say that.
Yeah. That's forgiven, because I don't think I'd be as forgiven.
That's very big of her.
You know, you'd be wanting your pound of flesh as such, you know.
Yeah.
You know, because especially when something like that happens, it's very hard to forgive. anyone like that when young kids are going through that, you know.
So there was the report made 9 recommendations, including cultural awareness training for those who are providing suicide prevention services. And I suppose because it's a specific ethnic minority group, and people say, some people argue that, but they're like the anti-traveller brigade. I suppose for somebody to deal with the implications of that on them, they need to know specifically the needs of that community. It's like any other community. They need to, I suppose you can't really apply any bandages or fixes to a community unless you know what the problems are in the first place. So he called for racism to be addressed whenever it happens. So you stop it there and then. It's not good enough, it's not acceptable, we don't accept it, it's a no tolerance. Same with football, say no to racism, it's the exact same thing. So there are also calls to improve mental health services and the introduction of an ethnic identifier. So there was 400 traveller primary healthcare workers involved in this, and she said Senator Flynn, who was involved, said that despite their work in the community, they still have not received their pandemic bonus at that time of €1,000. So these are people that work and live and breathe within the traveller community. I suppose, look, basically from it seems to boil down to the fact that they're felt they're outsiders, and we kind of look, I suppose, the settled community wanting them to be more like us. And why would they want to be like the group that has pushed them away the furthest?
Yeah. And that's true.
I think if we could meet somewhere in the middle, I mean, we may never understand. We've all been stuck behind the sulky and cursed to ourselves, to be honest. You know, God's sake, you know, I've worked a lot to have these fellas just out blocking. But like, maybe if there was a little bit, you're always going to get the lads that are messers in both communities.
Yeah, in all forms of life, John.
All forms of life. So I suppose the understanding and trying to understand where people are coming from. Yeah. And for, I suppose, that program really, what the mother said is she'd like the settled community to understand them more.
Would you... Sorry, John, for cutting across you there. Would you think that maybe, do you know where we have these cultural days, like you might have Nigerian cultural days, you have Spanish cultural days, all young kids in schools, which is great.
Yeah.
Maybe a traveller's culture day, because we don't understand our culture. We don't, even though they're probably more Irish than we are. Because originally a lot of the Irish years ago they had no fixed abodes.
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you because I don't know.
No, that's what I'm saying. You know, so maybe on the curriculum, especially with suicides with young people through all walks of life, maybe a bit more understanding, especially when you start with young kids, because the older you get, the more you have your view there, and it's very hard.
It's rigid. It's rigid.
Yeah. You know, and that's.
It'd be no harm, because I think, if we're all honest, if your child brought home a traveller child to the house, and there's kind of already set prejudices there, like, where's this going to lead to? Yeah. And, you know, we're all guilty of that.
Everyone's guilty of that. Yeah. The settled community is very, very...
Like, even, like, stuff, the accent, you turn your head, you know, because it's a little bit colourful. As in, you know, it's like the way you know a Cork.
That's right,
you might guess that it's a person from a traveller background.
The identity
and
is there.
It's almost laughed at.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And I suppose, you know, who are we to...
Well, it's probably thousands of years of culture that they have, that they're keeping going.
Yeah.
You know, and you can understand what pressure is on these young lads, because especially the name of the family.
It is,
you know, and protection of your name.
I remember reading a book called Gypsy Boy, and it was actually set in the UK. A lot of the stuff was similar. They were from the Romany ones, as you mentioned earlier, and it turned out this character ended up, he was gay. You don't kind of know it till toward the end, and he struggled with it. He wanted to do drama and acting, and that wasn't the thing. When he was a child, he was expected to run towards the father and he'd punch him and to toughen him up. And I suppose it's really understanding these kind of, you know, I don't know if that's a thing, but I know there is the fighting and that. Yeah. And that was mentioned by travellers themselves, that there's too much violence intertwined in their culture. Yeah. And I don't know, maybe everyone needs to change, you know, they'll need to, obviously the traveller groups, communities would have to change in that they'd have to be more open to getting treatment and stuff, and then maybe there needs to be specific treatment with traveller communities in mind to understand the specific needs. I don't know what the actual answer is, but it's not to be prejudiced and racist toward a 12-year-old child that he feels he no longer has to exist. That's certainly
that's
when it's people. I mean, I don't know, are those kids that done that, are they like, will they? That would live very hard with me for the rest of my life if I was involved. But you don't know. Are we gone that kind of as a society? Are we not that deep anymore that we can't even understand the gravity of what happened there? Like I'm sure, I mean, I couldn't live with myself if I thought that I contributed in any way, shape or form to a 12-year-old child wanting not to exist.
Well, we did a show there. I remember a couple of months back. I think was has Ireland lost its helpfulness or its kindness?
Are we like New York step over?
Are we slowly catching up? No, we're not blaming the rest of the world.
Stepping over the fella on the street.
Stepping over a fella on the street. Are we,
are we afraid to, or is it just?
I think we're afraid.
Are we less caring? Are we is our head stuck in our phones? Are we losing the commonality?
No, I think it's we're afraid. We're afraid more so than that. I think
are we not making the personal connections because we're all online and we're all
maybe?
Do you know, like the bravados on Twitter and they abusing someone for having an opinion to the point where they get some sort of satisfaction out of them and hurt.
Well, that's the problem with the younger people as well, is all these phones when
like not older people as well. To be fair, everyone's head is in their phone these days.
Oh, but now this taping of violence, one person being beat up by 3 or 4 people and things like that.
That's voyeurism. Yeah.
But going out designedly, are these younger people then starting to lose that?
Is there a basic skill? Empathy.
Empathy.
You learn that at home, and you either have it or you don't as well. Sometimes.
I think,
the sense of decency.
But the thing is, the child is not born evil, or the child is not born.
That's very true.
A lot of it comes from the home.
You learn from your parents, don't
and
you?
Maybe we need, maybe this, especially the settled community.
And let's be honest, all these words like pikey and pavy, they're all words from a bygone era, and they're still carried over. So we learned them from our parents.
Discriminatory names, and like it's like if you're away from and your name is John. And somebody just keeps calling you Paddy all the time. After a while, you will get a no. My name is John.
There's a connotation.
It's a connotation. It's a derogatory.
Dumb Paddy.
Yeah, derogatory.
Because we
so if you've been called
accent, that was the same in the UK. Our accents were a bit flatter. They didn't sound as refined, but that's just our accent. But we even in Only Fools and Horses. Do you remember we'll get the Irishman to paint it? It was the punchline at the end of because he was so.
Yeah,
loud and boisterous. He drank. O'Reilly, wasn't it?
Out of Faulty Towers.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
the
he
builder.
could do the jobs right, the builder. Yeah. We get O'Reilly because he was cheaper.
Yeah.
Yet most of the surgeons in Harley Street are Irishmen.
Yeah.
Top surgeons.
Yeah. Well, we're moving beyond it. I do have an issue with our culture and.
But that's what I'm saying. But it's the same. It's
drink,
the same for the
alcohol.
The same for the travelling community.
Yeah.
These people, if they're given a chance, can make it
to
the top. But the thing is, they're not given a chance.
No, so I suppose there was a thing, National Traveller, there was a Mental Health Act review submission by the National Traveller of MABS. So that was established 2005 as leading advocate for the financial inclusion of travellers in Ireland. So it's like MABS that we have that financial support, but there's a Traveller, National Traveller version as well. So it worked to end the financial exclusion of travellers in Ireland by promoting and developing culturally appropriate financial education programmes, supporting the development of a collaborative working relationship between local MABs, local travellers and other relevant organisations. And they highlight issues of over-indebtedness and exclusion from financial institutions, cash is king kind of. To get them to trust, I suppose, and because I suppose, you'd see, they deserve to have the same goals for their children as we do, and through saving and financial planning. I know it's tough these days anyway. So the other thing they want to do is work with partner organisations to address the exclusion by developing alternatives to mainstream saving and borrowing. So I suppose you kind of work with them to what they're comfortable with as well. So their strategic aims were to resource and support the main MABS organisation, SIS and travellers, so that travellers receive an effective and culturally appropriate service, and to contribute to addressing wider social, cultural and economic issues that cause traveller financial exclusion, to build, maintain and develop effective partnership and relationships with relevant strategic stakeholders, and to maintain and develop an organisation which is influential, sustainable, dynamic and open to learning. So it's basically what they're trying to do is break down the barriers for travellers to kind of integrate a little more into wider society through their economic means, because even if you think about it, it's not just about money. There's a term socio-economic, and that's always used. Like, we work in an area which would be described as having, I suppose, a high level of poverty, a high level of unemployment. So that's all socio-economic. They fall under socio-economic kind of heading.
Yeah.
And that just basically means that we're like, people here would, if you did a per household earning, it would be a lot lower than somewhere like just using Castletroy, for instance.
Yeah.
So I suppose really this economic thing is much wider than just money. It almost defines you. It almost defines who you are. It defines the kind of car you can drive. It defines the kind of house you can provide. It defines the school your kids can go to. Stuff like even sending your children to so if you suspect your child of having autism, you'll be 3 or 4 years waiting on the public list. But if you can afford to pay, you're talking 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
And this is more socio-economic. That's what we're kind of covering with that. And travellers have that as well, and they don't feel part of mainstream. Socio-economic kind of.
Well, I can understand that. They don't. How can they go into a bank and put money in, because people are automatically thinking where to get the money from?
They put it, and they put on a wedding. They put a down payment on a wedding, and then they find out they want to know we're not having you. There's money back.
That's right. Yeah.
That comes on the news a lot.
Yeah, it does actually. Yeah.
You heard of the story. Sure, the traveller going to a pub, and then we're okay here, lads. Need phone his friends, and then the bartender doesn't like the fact that 3 or 4 more.
Yeah.
But they've had to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know maybe a couple of bad eggs and all.
But there's bad eggs in every...
And it's weird, you always remember the bad things, don't you? You don't remember when the lads had a bit of a laugh and a sing-song left and left a lot of money behind the bar.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm not promoting that either, because alcohol seems to be culturally...
Fuels a lot.
It's one of the things that seems to kind of interlink or two. The mainstream and traveller, and that's probably contributes.
Probably the ruination of many a family as well. You see on both.
Well, definitely alcohol has contributed to the poor mental health and the suicide rate in travellers as well, because 10% of all suicides are travellers.
Yeah,
and yet 40,000 isn't. That's not even 1% of our population. No. Not even one. So suddenly we're talking about 12 times. The amount of suicides than the rest of the population. If you were even just to work it out quickly, probably a little more. I mean, they need to find the reasons. There's reasons there. It's racism, it's prejudice, it's not tackling mental health. They don't trust as well, and why would they? Trust the society? They have to go into mainstream to get the help. And why would you trust someone that has prejudiced you for
looks
years?
down your nose, knows it.
Anyway,
I can understand.
It was that programme really stuck with me the other day, and that's why I said maybe, John.
Well, John, it's an interesting subject, because really it's something that we don't think about. It's something that we don't think about. And it is frightening for such a small population of Ireland, or like that's that 10% of that that population.
That 10% of our suicides are from travellers.
It's frightening, and as you said, they need a voice as well.
Yeah.
And maybe more the powers to be need to start getting involved. I know there's some that like the MABs and these people are brilliant, but maybe some of the government.
I did notice a couple of years ago that the first, and it would be sociology, of course, traveller graduates, I think it was in UI in Galway or UCC, I can't remember which, but they got their degrees in sociology.
Yeah.
And, it was wonderful to see, it's so tough for them. I remember years ago as well, there was a traveller called the Candlelight Painter, and I'd down by the Canal Bank, and I remember when friends would be walking up and down or whatever, and we'd bump into him every now and then. He was one of the nicest fellas you'd ever meet. Yeah. He was called the Candlelight Painter because his paintings were that good, and they were well sought after, but he had to wait till his kids went to sleep in the caravan, and he had to light a candle and he'd paint, and he was known as the Candlelight Painter. Yeah.
There you go.
So, I suppose we need to break down the barriers a bit more. Trust each other, talk to each other. We have more in common. I think, does most of the work have to come on the mainstream side? It probably does, To be honest,
the mainstream side needs to work a bit harder.
These stats don't lie.
we're too judgmental at times, and that goes for everyone. We all wear this hat.
Judgmental hat. This rise of the right wing.
If you're
Ireland is full of nonsense.
Yeah, no,
it's not full. There's a lot of space there.
A lot of space there, and
there's other reasons that we can't look after people. It's not.
Yeah.
Let's not say it's full because it's not. But obviously we have housing issues and other.
It's housing issues as well, but it's not. It's an overall fault of the governments and past governments, not.
Getting callous,
not these people coming in trying to live a life and get on with their lives, John. No, John, that's been a very interesting subject today, and I hope if there's anyone listening out there from the travelling community, hopefully someone could be listening and they'll know these places exist and there is places that they can go and get help, and someday hopefully when everyone comes on that they will be on the same level as everyone else, where no one should be really on that level, So thanks a lot, John. And
thank you, John.
We'd like to thank St Mary's Adult Education Centre and also Limerick City Community Radio for letting us waffle away for the last half an hour. So we hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks. All the best and have a great rest of your Sunday.